Welcome back. The time trial, what a race it was, over 40.5 kilometres, based here in Annecy, which is the Venice of the Alps. There, the canals come out of Lake Annecy. We have been right around this lake, and what a race it was. So let's just have a look back on an interesting day in the Tour de France for everybody as we watch our Cadillac performance highlights. It all began with Fabien Cancellara, an hour 40 behind overall at the start today. He was the winner in Monaco, remember, and held the jersey for nearly a week. He made his start early on, and he set the temperature all the way around. He wasn't the fastest at the first 3 checks. That was Mikhail Ignatieff who was. Then he took control at the 4th check. Then he delivered the best time to beat of 48 minutes and 48 minutes and 33.9. That was the time that everybody now had to shoot at. David Miller did well for Garmin Slipstream, trying to put a lot of power on the course so he could go and tell Bradley Wiggins just how hard it was in places. And Miller was riding above himself today. It was a good ride today for David Miller. As he came up towards the finish, he was in 3rd place when he stopped the clock. His final time, 49:11.38. The weather was getting a little bit changeable now. From a hot start to the day, the clouds were rolling in too, and the crowds were getting a little bit wet. Gustav Erik Larsen, who made his name in the Olympic Games in Beijing, where he got himself a silver medal, was on fire as well. He was right up amongst the leaders at the first check, and he continued to improve. By the time he got over the top of the Côte de Bouffay, he was right up amongst the leaders. In fact, in 2nd place. When he came down to the finish, not quite so good, but he did move out David Miller, and he slotted in there for the moment, with Gustav Larsen taking 3rd place at that time. Bradley Wiggins, a lot of pressure on Bradley today. He needed to deliver a time which nobody else could match, so he could go now to the big mountain, the Mont Ventoux, with a little bit of an advantage, and it looked to be working for him. He wasn't. He went through the first check in the best time as he raced along the lake here, and nobody was expecting anybody, but he slowed down once he came away from the hills, and disappointingly, he slowed down rather dramatically. And Wiggins came in with a time of only 49:13, which was slower than David Miller and Gustav Larsen, and indeed Ignatieff. Andries Kloden had a similar story to tell today. There was a lot of rumour around the start line that Kloden would deliver the time that would take away first prize today and lift himself back into the top 3 overall standings. Remember, he lost his high finish when he couldn't hold his teammate's wheel yesterday on the Col de Colombière. But it wasn't so good for Andries Kloden, just 49:24. Eventually 54 seconds will be lost to Alberto Contador. Lance Armstrong rose to the occasion as far as I am concerned, advised here by Johan Brunel, his manager and his friend. A very thorough warm-up for Lance Armstrong as he waited now for the start. He'd chosen a yellow bike as well, although on this occasion he wasn't wearing a yellow jersey, but just about everything else was yellow. He got the biggest cheer of the day as he rolled out of the start house, and he quickly got into his rhythm. All he wanted to do was get time on Andy and Frank Schleck. He wasn't expecting to get time on Bradley Wiggins, but he feels he can deal with Wiggins when we get to Mont Ventoux. Well, that's to be decided later. But he soon got into his slipstream here, and he was riding very well. When he went through the check, he was going through with a 3rd best time, 27 seconds away from, a little bit less than that from Bradley Wiggins. He eventually went through 27 seconds down on Alberto Contador. When he got down to the finish, he was right up there. No, he wasn't as fast as Bradley Wiggins, but he really had contained him and had kept ahead of him on the overall classification, and that was most important. Frank Schleck, well, we did say at the start of our program, they're not great time trial riders, Frank and Andy Schleck, and Frank's made a very defined start to the day as he pushed on here, conceding not a lot of time at the first check. But like a lot of the riders, they really took it hard on this 3rd category climb. So when Frank came down to the finish, he was really off the leaderboard there. His time was not a good time, and he has lost a little bit of ground today. His final time, 51:04. So that left just 2 riders to come home today. Andy Schleck sitting in 2nd place overall in the Tour de France, and knowing now a reasonable time trial, and he goes back to his playground, which is Mont Ventoux, and he did a great time trial by his own standards. He would get down to the finish in the end in 21st place, which is a terrific finish for him. He was only worried about the whereabouts of Contador and Lance Armstrong. He probably knew that Kloden was fading, and so too was his brother Frank. As he ran into the last couple of kilometres, he was really fighting for a good time. He was heading for a time 50:15 on the line, at 21st place on the day, and holding second place overall in the Tour de France. Andy Schleck, job done. Alberto Contador, what can you say about this man? If we thought he might concede a little bit of his overall advantage in the Tour de France, well, forget it. This man's here to win the race and win it in the tradition of the great riders. Win the time trial as well. This was not a mountain time trial. It was not his forte. And yes, he is the time trial champion of Spain. But the competition there, we have to say, it wasn't that good. But here, it was the best competition in the time trial in the world. And he goes to the first check in the best time. He slips at the second check by 3 seconds to second best time. Back at the top of the next 2 checks, and he hurtles himself up the home straight with the best time by just 3 seconds inside the time of Fabian Cancellara. And you can't beat a better time trial rider than Fabian Cancellara. Alberto Contador tonight has gained time over everybody in the Tour de France. Tremendous performance, and that is our Cadillac Performance highlights. Let's begin with the stage results. Contador 48.30, 3 seconds better than Saxo Bank's specialist. Ignatieff, another big surprise for Katusha, 15 seconds. Larson at 33, Miller at 41. All those behind Contador were not the big favourites and challengers. Wiggins was best of those in a disappointing 6th at 43 seconds. Sanchez there at 44. Andries Kloden slips to 9th. He loses 54 seconds. Zabriskie did a solid ride there, but it doesn't really matter at the moment. A minute 02 down. Cadel Evans, he did a proud ride, 12th at the minute 14th. Vladimir Karpich topping the 15 there in a minute 28 lost. Lance Armstrong loses a minute 30 to his teammate Alberto Contador, but to the others he rode extremely impressively, so he's happy with his day. Top 20 completed there by Kim Kirken, who lost a minute 42. There's Andy Schleck, he finishes 21st, a minute 45 down, but enough to hold second. Christian van der Velde will keep his high position overall too, conceding 2 minutes though to Contador, and Joost Postuma completing the top 5. Well, it'll make interesting